Thanks for checking out the I Am More Than podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Wessel, a former Miss Arizona USA, professional model, self-acceptance advocate, hype girl, and founder of More Than Inc. In this podcast, we talk about the things that actually matter, from mental health to health and wellness, body image and confidence, and social issues. We're here to uplift, educate, inspire, and grow together. Each week, we'll feature a unique and incredible woman to share her story of how she's so much more than whatever you may know her as. We'll laugh, cry, and feel inspired in every episode, and trust me, there's no topic off limits. Whether you're commuting, working, or enjoying a glass of wine, we're so honored to have you here, and I'm excited to welcome you to the More Than movement. We're just getting started. This week's guest is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, model coach, entrepreneur, advocate, wife, friend, and trailblazer. In this episode, we talk all about how her modeling career and business took off while she was living in a studio apartment with rats in New York. She explains how she creates dream lists like the one that landed her in the prestigious pages of SI, to launching a size-inclusive swim line designed for all women. We'll also be including a giveaway at the end of this episode that you do not want to miss. I do want to mention this episode comes with a trigger warning as we talk about healing from an eating disorder. Her unique experiences has shaped her into the powerhouse that she is and allowed her to make a true change in the modeling industry. Her vulnerability, perseverance, and Southern charm makes her truly one of a kind. It's an honor to introduce you to my dear friend, Allie Ayers-Lindsay, the founder and CEO of Bissy Swim. Welcome to the I Am More Than podcast, Allie. I am so stoked to finally see your face.
So excited to see you again virtually.
You're one of those people that I feel so connected to, even though we've been around each other a handful of times. But you're just like a soul sister. You're one of the coolest, most badass people that I really admire professionally and personally.
Well, and back at you. That's why we just have, I think, that is just a spiritual maturity potentially where you can just feel that with somebody. And I have always been drawn to you that way. So I'm excited to, like we said earlier, someday get to just sit on a couch and drink a bottle of wine.
Oh yeah. I can't wait for that moment. But we originally met through the modeling industry in New York, and we were both in New York for a very temporary period of time. So it was just a blessing that we crossed paths. Yeah. But I've always admired how much you were just confident in yourself and owned the fact of being a middle-sized model and just trying to make it work. And I want to know where that comes from. How did you get into the industry? How did you end up in New York? Tell me everything.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, that attitude comes from a watch me go kind of mentality. That was just in me from the time I was tiny. My mom talks about when I was like too small to reach the counter at Pizza Hut and I wanted some like marinara sauce or something. So I walked up there and I was like, "Hi, my name's Allie. I need marinara sauce." And I just was like always like, "Excuse me, I can do it myself," kind of thing. And so I think that was just there. But how I got into the industry though, I was 17. I was doing a pageant in, we're in Guthrie, Oklahoma at the Scottish Rite Temple. And I was in the teen division and I got scouted by a local agent here in Oklahoma. She kind of gave me her card and I was like, I'm in the middle of basketball season, dude. Like, I don't have time. And so I didn't call her until I graduated high school. And I was one of those kids. I was like debate team, cheerleader, basketball player, volleyball player, student council, just like everything that I could get my hands in. And as soon as that was over, I was like, I'm so bored. I need something to do. And so I just was like, that sounds cool. Like, let's see what's up with that. And to give you perspective of my brain at the time, when I was younger, I remember laying down, like drawing fashion shows constantly. And I would want to put on plays. And like, it was very much alluding to who I would be as an adult. But I was like nearing that 18-year-old, it's time to pick a thing. Everybody's choosing exactly what it's going to be. My dad is so practical and he was enforcing like a health field thing. And it just smart, always will have work. And so I just kind of was scared and 18. And so I was just like, I'll be a speech pathologist. And so that's what I decided to do. And it sounded like a fun idea, but it didn't sound realistic maybe. Anyway, so I decided finally to go call this modeling agent, go in and I meet with her and she signs me that day. And it was good. Like, it was Oklahoma modeling. I did, some bridal runway shows.
Get it.
So at the expo center, I remember one of those actually, like it was a zipper back and they had to clamp me in. It didn't fit right. And they walked me down the stage and they popped off. And then it's not like a high fashion runway show where like a little butt crack is cute. Like I'm in the Oklahoma Expo Center. Like that's not fun. And so I'm like sitting there like trying to hold my dress on, like walking down. It's like, oh my God. So, that it was glamorous to say the least. And
always modeling so glamorous.
So glamorous. So yeah, that was very on and off. I worked, I know I was the most working model in Oklahoma one year, and that might have meant like a job every 2 months.
Wow.
Maybe. And that was still like, what's that paying? Like,
yeah.
It's a hobby. That's great.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So all is cool. I am getting to my last year of college and I'm itching to get out of this place. It's like I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I was realizing that I was getting faint in these classes where we had to dissect things. And I was like, that's probably not what I should do for my whole career. Like maybe not.
Probably not.
And so I go and I start kind of looking at things. I graduate early because I was just like antsy to go and see the world. And I didn't really know what it meant at the time. I just knew I wanted to see something. And so I essentially flipped a coin and landed on New York. And once I got there, I had been begging whoever would have been in charge of placing me in other markets. I was like, I really want you to introduce me. And they were like, you're not ready. You're not ready. You're not ready. And I was like, I'm going to be ready, And so I asked for permission to just submit myself. And I did. And that's how I got signed to my first agency in New York. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were just antsy to get out of a small town? Like when you wanted to see the world, did you have a specific vision for what that looked like, or you were just curious?
No, I think, now I'm really big on manifesting specific goals, and that's important. But I think there's also a part of that process where it's so important to just be open to letting yourself learn and open to letting yourself like take what comes and making the most of it. And that's where I was. I knew I remember being 14, going to New York for the first time. I literally like had hair down to my butt. And I was just like, little Southern baby was like, let's go be in the big city or whatever. And so we go, and I remember walking around Soho, and I was just like infected by it. The second we landed in New York, I was like, oh my God, I have to live here. I have to be a part of this. I remember we found Sarah Jessica Parker's hair stylist. And I was like, I'm going there. And so my mom was like, yeah, let's go. And so we go. My hair is, again, like sitting on it long. And I remember sitting down, and she was like, what do you want? And I was like, give me whatever you want me to have. What do I need? I'm like 13 or 14. And she chops my hair, like, I mean, here. And you would think you'd freak out. I was like, I'm a big city bitch and it's time to go eat. And I was just like, and then literally, I think that must have been it, because I moved to New York and made that happen. And I have never had long hair. Like it's been here since Sarah Jessica Parker's stylist chopped my hair off at 13 or 14.
That's sweet. That is so cool.
So maybe somewhere in there was direction, but at the time it just felt like I'll literally take the next train out. Give me a ticket,
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah. And when you got there, did you still have that sense of just knowing who you are trying to step into the modeling industry? Did you feel like your confidence was being shaken? Where were you at?
Yeah. No, I discovered my passion for anything like inclusive there. I knew that there were injustices, but I didn't really know. I don't know. You learn your view of the world once you step into it, sort of. I guess quick backstory on the part in Oklahoma. I was being promised left and right, like, we can send you to Japan, or we can send you to Singapore was a big one at the time. We can send you to Singapore if you get your weight down. And so I was constantly doing the like anxiety starve before the meeting, so your hips would be the right size. And I mean, I full on was anorexic, bulimic, body dysmorphic, everything that you can picture, like all was happening, because I was like frantic to leave. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think that I had the right to leave Oklahoma without modeling. But at the time, I don't know. I thought that was my only way to go.
Yeah.
And so I ended up I finally, like through a long dramatic story, was recovering. Took like a year, maybe a year and a half off of modeling. And I stepped back into it because there was a casting call specifically for somebody my size at the time. And after you're recovering from an eating disorder, it's like I rest at like a 4'6", and I was more like a 10 then. All good, always around,
Yeah.
but like was adjusting to a new body. I got a casting call specifically for like, it was like a 10-12. And I was like, could I book a job like this? And it like blew my whole mind. I was like, this is a thing. And that's when my eyes were open to plus size modeling, including which is, we can discuss the categories if we want to, but like, I didn't realize a 10 was a plus size person by the categories of modeling. And I realized I could be doing this. And so that's what started me off in that whole thing. So when I get to New York, it's my first time not only modeling outside of Oklahoma, but it's my first time going into castings for plus size girls and not really looking like a plus size girl. I was being given padding to wear under clothes. And this is the line I always say, like I was going into plus size castings and being told I was too small, and straight size castings and being told I was too big. And so it just like super heightened my awareness of how messed up the whole thing is and how few people fit into the categories. And so that's where that all came from, was just living in it, going to casting after casting after casting, running to that stupid Chelsea casting that's in a concrete building where no Wi-Fi service can get it. Like, running off to those and constantly and never booking a damn thing because you don't fit.
You don't fit into a category.
Yeah.
Yep. I relate to that so much. And I think it still doesn't make sense to me. And it didn't make sense to me there, but it's also like when you recover from any type of body dysmorphia or an eating disorder and trying to stay in that positive mindset and still trying to like kind of adjust to your new body, it's really confusing to stay strong and stay confident in what you've worked hard for. And I think that the industry especially doesn't help that. I think that on a day-to-day basis, it's something that people that have dealt with that are constantly overcoming. But do you think that any of your body dysmorphia, did that start when you got into the modeling industry, or was that just a natural part of just growing up that it started?
Oh, no, it was modeling. I think there's something about my personality type that loves control, loves getting to check things off of a list almost. And both of those things, when you feel like your life is spiraling away from you, those feel very easy to control. And so I think that was part of maybe my makeup. There could have been some other catalyst for me if this hadn't been it, but modeling was the catalyst for me. It was all those things combined.
Yep.
No question. I've had to work really hard on not blaming and being really angry toward all the pieces of my life that I lost for it, and the people that I felt should have been responsible when they weren't, were old enough to know better, were in positions of power that could have encouraged versus pressured. Like I'm still working on not being angry.
I relate to that. And I love that you brought that up, because it's something that you look at the industry now and there is so much change and there's a lot more inclusivity than there was when we were growing up, but there still isn't enough. And like you said, the people that had the positions of power that should have been looking out for you, should have been helping you, whether that was an agent, whether it's a casting director, whoever that may be, didn't fulfill what their duties should have been. Yeah. And I think that leaves a lasting scar on people. And a lot of people leave the industry for that. And I think it's really cool that you have taken control of your own journey in the industry. And not only have you not left it, but you've stayed in it without being part of it. You've changed it every step of the way. And I want to know, was there a moment where you were just like, I'm sick of this bullshit, like I'm going to change it? Or how did you find your identity as a model?
There was a really special friend I met in New York. Her name was Cheyenne, and Lord, I haven't talked to her in years, and I think I need to reach out. But she introduced me to a lot of ideas that I had never even considered before. I knew I felt angry. I knew I felt frustrated. I knew I felt outcasted, thrown out, and I knew I felt all these things. But I remember like a sit down with her. She taught me about a mood board that night. I mean, a dream board that night, and we made one, and we were like, well, what can we do? And we kind of talked through it, and it just that was the first time that I took an active stance. I didn't feel that I had the platform at the time to do a lot, but I felt that I could say something personally and like get involved personally. And that means like on set choosing to empower and have these important conversations, remind people that they're worth more than their hit measurement, like spreading love personally on set and at castings and stuff. That's just something that's carried on to my big mission through everything that I do now. I mean, that's what I live for on set with Bissy, is getting to have those sit down conversations with girls that haven't had that said to them yet, and getting to remind them, like, I hired you because look at you. They're bummed about the cellulite or the height that day or the whatever thing they might be feeling, like, we're leaving that in on purpose. And like, I hired you because you're fabulous. It's the personal stuff that people really engage with. And so I think finding my identity there came, I guess, with a moment of realization that I had the power to do something about it. I was disappointed in the people who had not chosen to do that, and probably never would. Decided that I would change the industry if I was going to continue engaging in it.
It's pretty awesome because you did. I mean, you've made waves. And I think we connected through social media because I saw you do this like badass shoot that you had created. I feel like you did that a ton in New York, that you were always collaborating with people and making these incredible shoots. And I'm like, first off, how are you doing this? Like, how are you connecting with all of these people and producing these incredible images? But you just seemed so sure of yourself and of your mission and of spreading that message to people, whether you knew them or not. I mean, you spread the message to me and we'd never met. So I think that that was a really incredible thing that you made a conscious decision to do. And that also led to you being in Sports Illustrated. Can you tell me a little bit about what was going through your mind when you decided to put yourself out there for that? Where were you at in your modeling journey?
This was when I told you that I'd booked maybe 3 jobs in New York the entire time. Remember that whole stage? Yeah, rough. So I was like, Dad's right, go home and work. So I was planning to move back home. Truly was like within a couple months of 3 months or so of my lease being up, I was like, I don't get to renew this. And I remember being in the airport with my mom for some reason, and we saw Sports Illustrated magazine sitting out. It would have been the year before the casting that had, that I got to be a part of. And I remember flipping it open to Mila DeBasio. She is just like,
she is something
she's
else.
Like I can't get over her. Like she's so cool. She's so badass. She's so kind. She's so humble. She's so like low key on everything she does. There's no gimmicky anything with her. She's just a fucking artist. And I love her. Anyway, so I opened it up. On top of that, she's my measurements. And so I opened this thing up and I was like, bing, 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 bing moment for me. And I was like, okay, I'm not getting any of these castings because it's not a big enough deal. And that's kind of what I realized for myself. I was like, the change makers, the people who like break the molds, don't break the molds with that e-com job I wished I had gotten on Friday. Like, those are great. And I'll have a whole spiel about making money while that's important too. But I was like, I got to go a whole lot bigger than I'm going. That's it. That's the one that I'm going to do. And so I went home and I wrote out, I'm a mood, I keep trying to say mood board, a dream lister more than like a cut out the pieces person. Because I check off things on my list and I love it. And so I had my new list and I popped it with a safety pin into my wall. New York walls are about the softest things.
You could put anything.
Yeah. And so this was, my mom jokes about that place being Shawshank. That was my poor apartment there. But, I hung this thing on the wall. I was living on a pallet, sleeping. We had essentially made a pallet. This is so sad. No, it's not. It's so cool. I love this part. So the most fun part of my life. This apartment was tiny, tiny. When I leaned on the wall from my bathroom, it caved the wall of my kitchen in. It was like there was no structure in it. It just kind of would wobble like that. And I was sleeping on a pallet with my photographer best friend at the time, who we just shared the room, and we had no furniture. We just like lined our shoes. That was where we were right now in our life. So this is how Allie is living. I had signed my lease on this apartment and found out the night that I moved in, I was laying there and I was like exhausted from unpacking. It was the middle of the summer. I didn't know, coming from Oklahoma, I didn't know you have to have like wall units or window units for AC. And I was just like, somebody ring me out. Like I was so sweaty and I'm laying there, and then the siren, the fire station goes off. And I was like, I sit up and I was like, what have I done? I have moved in across the street. I mean, like throw a stone to the fire station. So anyway, I slept with earplugs in the entire time I was there. That was my life at that point. Things were not working. I was not booking. I was living on the floor with my photographer friend. Like that was my life. So
Isn't it funny the sacrifices you make?
And I miss them actively. I actively miss that. It is such a fun piece of my life. So creative, so stupid, so fun. Anyway, except for the rats that we found. Anyway, so we have this list. New York. List is on the wall, and I put Sports Illustrated at the top of them. And I am not kidding you, within a week and a half, they said they were going to do their very first open call. And there was no question. What do you feel like, and I might stand by this, that I created it.
I love it. Own it.
You know? And I just was like, oh, well, I asked for it and here it is. So here's my time. And there was no question. There were nervous moments, absolutely. And there were moments where I didn't know. But I think when you're working on yourself and your emotions and your spirituality, there is a place that I really believe that you can sit down in the quiet when you choose to let your anxiety go, and you can see your future. And you can feel it, at least. And I could feel it. There was a peace around it the whole time. That was mine. I knew that was mine.
That's amazing. Yeah. I don't even know it's bigger than manifesting. It's almost like tapping into your higher self through meditation is what it sounds like.
It's it's an alignment with your purpose.
That's incredible that you were able to have that sense of peace surrounding it and that sense of assurity. Were you somebody that prior up to this point, I know you said you made dream lists. Tell me about, how do you make this, detail it out? Is it manifesting? Are you writing it down? Like, what are you doing to make these come to fruition?
To touch on the mindset around that, first of all, I really believe you can sometimes see your future, and it's like this is your purpose in a straight line, and you just kind of fall in line and you can see the whole way down. But something to remember is that you don't always remember that. Like, you can sit down and have your epiphany moment, and anxiety will pull you over here. Stress will pull you over here. Fear will pull you over here, and you'll forget it, And so I think that's important to remember, that I don't constantly wake up every day and feel so in line. I've had it pointed to like the analogy of a little puppy that you're trying to train. Like when I was trying to learn to really meditate well or whatever, you have the puppy and you're teaching the puppy to sit, and the puppy is a puppy. So it's going to continue to run off or like get distracted, and you don't get mad at the puppy. You just go, you're a puppy, sit, and you tell him to sit again. And you remind yourself constantly, when you catch yourself wandering or stressing or feeling anxious, you go, get in line. Remember, I'm not mad. I'm not upset at myself. Just like, remember to get in line, remember to align. So the process of making the dream lists really is just sitting down, like having an alley night where I smoke a little weed, and I do a little moment where I sit and just be with myself. Usually it's journaling. I just like journaling is big. Poetry comes out, like whatever comes out of my hand is great. Most of the time it looks like chicken scratch that I can't even read the next day, but you're just letting it flow. And you really just start brainstorming the things that you truly care enough to work for. What will you actually care to work for? And so the process is writing those things out, whatever those things are, and then you work backwards, right? So it's not like just putting a list up, popping it on the wall, and then it magically happens. It's you put it on the wall because you'll see it every day, or the fridge, or whatever you see every day. And you think, if you've got the ability to the discipline to every day look at that and say, what can I do to get a step closer to that today? What can I do? And backwards, what comes right before this big goal? What do I need? And then you branch it out, because it's sending emails, it's checking in with your agents, it's taking the risky castings or the hard things to do. It's like doing the self-tape when you don't feel like it, whatever. And it's all those little things that branch into your big goal,
Yeah. I'm taking notes for myself because I'm like, okay, I'm creating one of these as soon as we get off of this so I can figure this out. Because I feel like I've really tried to focus on trying to believe that I can achieve things that I can't yet see. And I think that we can all do that. I mean, you were in Sports Illustrated swimsuit coming from living with rats in your New York City apartment. Like anything is possible. And that's something I love so much about having incredible women like you on this podcast is that our listeners can really manifest whatever they want in their life, but you have to have that belief aspect. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to overcome. And I also don't think that you ever get to a point where you don't still sometimes struggle with unbelief.
Of course. Oh my God. Yeah. That's one of those little put the puppy back in its sitting position things. Like you can know, because one of the biggest things you're talking about, listeners hearing this, like some people just need, like I was given the permission or the realization that this is a way you can do it. Your life doesn't just go, like you can have some control in this. So it's sometimes just the permission to do that for yourself. What did you ask? I started trailing.
No, I love that was perfect because you sometimes still struggle with that unbelief. But I think the biggest thing is knowing that even when you are struggling with it, knowing that that's a temporary emotion, just like all of our other emotions, and how you are in control of getting yourself back on track.
And it comes in new ways now, right? Like modeling, I've had 10 years to work through, and I've gotten to a really solid place with my body and with I live by the choice to send love to the parts of me I don't feel deserve it. Like when I had a pimple this morning and I have to literally look at the thing that I don't like and I have to go, I choose to love you, pimple. I choose to love you, cellulite. I choose to love you, my hip measurement that went up 1.5 inches over Christmas. Like I choose to love it. And that's cool. And living by that is big. So I've gotten to a pretty solid place with my body. It's taken a lot of work, but I've gotten here. And now I think that those doubts are presenting themselves in new places. I started a company in an area that I didn't get a degree in or don't have experience in. Room for lots of doubt. You put a lot of money where your mouth is doing things like that. And there's it's really scary. So that's the thing that is, I feel like there will always be things that you have to work through and teach yourself or I'm not learning, Yep. And so I think that's where full transparency, that's where mine is now is in a business sense, a fiscal sense,
I love it. And I cannot wait to dive into Bissy because I'm fascinated and I need so many tips for myself. But you had made a comment about choosing to love the parts of yourself that have been hard to. And I think that every single woman that listens to our podcast, they all have the same thing in common, where whether you're in the industry or you're not, or whatever career field you've chosen, so much of our daily thoughts surround our body, what it looks like that day, how you feel, and that makes up how you carry yourself in this world. And I think that it's a conscious decision that you constantly have to make every day to love those parts of yourself. But are there any other specific things that you did throughout the couple years that have gotten you to a place where you feel like you're pretty solid?
Yeah, that's a great question. That choosing to love part is quite literally an everyday thing. And
do you truly believe it? When you choose to love, do you have to convince yourself?
Yeah, I don't believe it right away. And certainly when I started doing this, I thought it was so stupid. I hated it. I remember the first time I tried it, it was this mirror in my dorm, like college apartment. Body dysmorphia is wild. You see things that are not there. It's nuts. And I remember being like in tears trying to do the thing and I couldn't get through the exercise. And no, of course I didn't believe it. I thought that was the ugliest thing. And I remember crying because I had to go to this like social gathering situation where I would be in shorts and I was just like, it's too hot to wear jeans, but I was in tears because I had to wear shorts. And it's just like, no, you do not believe it when you were doing that. It's a choice. It's an exercise. It is something that you have to just trust. Maybe after the gazillionth time will finally click. And I think the process of like actually healing from the eating disorder itself was accountability, no question. That you're scared for anyone else to know because you're afraid they'll make you stop, and you are afraid of the judgment or the questions surrounding it, or the like people thinking it's stupid, whatever. There's so many things that you don't want people to know that for. And I finally had because not nourishing your body leads to other issues, of course. And one of them was what a gift to myself, panic attacks that were getting started. And like, I still have to learn to manage because they like kicked this habit off in my body. And so I was home from college and I would like binge eat when I went home because I will gives in because your mom's making your favorite food. And then you go upstairs and try to sneaky throw it up in your upstairs bathroom, and I had a full blown panic attack when my mom and I were at the house together. And, I tried to hide it. I tried to walk inside and stick my head in the freezer, and she caught me and held me, and I body racking sobbed, and we figured it out. And she was not nice about it. Like that was the most tough love I've ever experienced in my life. She made me write down this is how I got started with journaling. She had me write down everything that I ate that day, and I had to send it to her at the end of the day. And I had to like write down if I had purged, and I had to write down if I hadn't eaten, and I had to write down, and she had to review my food every day. And I would say that feels really invasive for healthy people, but for people who are not, like, that's what I needed. And so this is all very dark.
True. But it's part of your journey. And that's
I just haven't broken this down publicly before. So she had me send that all to her every day, and that's how it kept me honest. It kept me wanting to eat enough. I remember being mad at her because 1,200 calories felt absurd and excessive and ridiculous, and we would have fights about it. But it was the accountability is the point of me saying that. And she kept me accountable, and I had somebody who loved me enough to be mean about it. And so that was a big part of the actual healing, the steps to take to start being better to yourself. And then the rest of it just comes with like, I journaled a bunch, the realization that I had missed out on years of college and beautiful, fun things because I wanted to be 2 sizes smaller. That's nuts. So you kind of have these epiphany moments as you're getting better. And then there's this like almost angry drive that's like, I'll be damned if I ever let myself feel that way again.
Well, it sounds like you have an incredible mom, and
she rocks.
She sounds amazing. And I think that's also so important, is having the accountability from somebody that you love. And like you said, it can be embarrassing, but it also, you don't have to be a certain age for it to affect you. Like it can happen when you're young, and it can happen when you're in your mid-20s, and it can happen when you're older. And I've seen that a lot of the women that I know that struggled with body dysmorphia or eating disorders when they were in their early 20s and never told anybody, carried those issues with them for the rest of their lives. And then think about all the things that they had missed out on throughout their 30s, 40s, 50s. So I think that when people talk about it and thinking that it only affects young women, and then suddenly you get healed and you're fine after that, is why I want, and I appreciate you opening up and talking about it so much, because I want, if somebody hears this and you sound like how you were years ago, that you need some help. Like you need to get some accountability and that you can heal.
Yeah. Yep. And it feels so scary to tell somebody, but it's so worth it to just do it. It's so worth it to just confide and do it with the right person who's going to actually be that Kari mom mine for you. And like somebody who can handle you being blisteringly mad at them when they don't give you your way. Like you have to, and if that's like professional help, do it. Some people may not have that figure near them at the moment. Like it is worth it to find it somewhere. So it's worth having your life back. And I think it's important to say, healing is absolutely possible. If there's somebody listening who also is recovering or recovered, and you have moments where it doesn't feel like it's all gone, know that it's normal. I'm like probably 6 years out, and like I still have moments where I want to relapse, and that it's normal to feel like it's not all the way gone, because I'm not sure it will ever fully be gone for me. I just know when that habits want to pop back up or choices want to pop back up, I literally will look at myself in the mirror and be like, we are not that girl anymore. We will not do that. And I just think it's important to say that it's not going to be gone for good, probably for some people.
Yep. And as long as you have the tools to be able to recognize it before you spiral is so important.
That's what it is creating healthy habits.
Healthy habits and self-awareness. which I think self-awareness is underrated in every aspect of life, but especially when it comes to stuff like this, you need to be so in tune with yourself. But I think that your journey and your story makes so much of what you've done make sense because you took every bit of pain that you've gone through and turned it into a purpose. And you are breaking the mold of so many different categories, so many different industries. And I know Sports Illustrated kind of launched that power for you. And I remember after I saw you in the magazine and I reached out to you they did a second submission and I was like, just tell me, how do I do it? And you literally said, just do it. Like that's what you do. Like just be yourself and do it. And I think that watching you catapult from that to then launching Bissy has been so cool. So I want to know how Bissy got started, how you got the idea for it. And then I know that you were like literally sewing these suits. So I want all the dirty details of how you launched this badass business.
Oh Lord. Yeah. God, it was a crazy time. I remember, let's see, I had started sewing them myself before Sports Illustrated happened, but I was just making them for me. And then kind of friends and stuff. So I was in that New York apartment that I had described. I had a desk in the corner that I had set up my Singer sewing machine on, and I would just cover the entire room with spandex and, and play. I was just figuring it out and playing. It was fun to be creative and whatever. So that's what I was doing.
And you had no training. You were just teaching yourself.
No. Well, my grandma taught me some by hand stuff when I was younger. So I had a grasp on how certain things worked, but I had never made garments with a sewing machine before.
Wow.
And so it was literally YouTube University. I was like, let's go, so I just pull stuff up and then that's how I learned. But then that's when I was just making them for myself, whatever. When I had a girl from Oklahoma, she was in the Miss Oklahoma USA pageant. She wanted one. And I was like, this is the theme of my life. I've been saying that I belly flop into things. I just kind of do belly flop into them. And sometimes it's not good. It's good because it's created my life. But sometimes I get in over my head. And this was one of them. I was like, sure, I can make you a pageant grade swimsuit. Why not? I just think I can do it. And so I was like, oh my God. And so I started going to this sweet woman who refined my skills very much. And she was pivotal for my ability to understand what I was doing and do it better. So I had some training after I took a couple jobs that I shouldn't have. But I was making them myself. And Sports Illustrated happened. And I remember it was just kind of a thing I was kicking around at the time. I knew I wanted to. I remember my first casting with him, I said that that's what I wanted, of my life. And I remember surprising myself saying that because I was like, oh, we haven't said this to ourselves yet. That's an interesting thing to tell Sports Illustrated swimsuit. Okay. So sure, belly flop. So we, but that day for that first casting that we had with them, because, they did the online, open call where you send in your video and then they pick you, and I squealed and giggled. And then I knew that I had a casting with them in person in Brooklyn. It couldn't have been a month later. Anyway, so I wanted to come in my own swimsuits that I had made because in the casting video, I was like, I made these, whatever. And so I remember looking back, the advice to that girl would have been go to sleep. Your eye bags will be better to have fixed than another option for swimsuit for them to see you in, because I got there and they didn't want me to wear my own swimsuits. They wanted us to put on a swimsuit that they had prepared for us. Duh. Of course. And so I was just like, okay, cool. I just stayed up all night because, anyway, so I make these swimsuits. Where am I going with this? How did I start, Bissy? Oh, no, this is what happened. They asked me for it. I'm reliving some stuff that I'd forgotten about. I was sitting on my couch and I knew I had just registered for my LLC because I knew that I was going to kind of go for it, but I didn't understand the process yet. Right. And so I got an email from Joanna at Sports Illustrated, and she was like, hey, here's our mood board for this shoot. These are the suits we're calling in. If you have any, send them our way and we'll they'll be considered to be featured. And I about shit a brick. I was like, this is 2 weeks away. What am I, and I felt so pressured. Like I must send them a suit because I wanted to make sure I was in the running, but I didn't know. Anyway, so that power drove everything that came next, because I, in a snap, had to figure out where these were going to be produced. How do I properly develop the sample? How do I turn the sketch into a suit that I can send into Sports Illustrated? How do I get tags in this quickly? How do I boom, 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 like all these things, just like bam, me trying to hit this deadline. And that started the process of me figuring out the answers for how I would actually run this company. Wow. So I remember standing outside I'm in the fashion district in New York, and I'm looking at the building where the woman who was going to produce my swimsuits was. And I remember standing there with my sketches, like shivering, shaking, just like it wasn't even cold out. I was just like, I'm going to throw up. And I remember like crying, standing outside of the building, like trying to gather myself. And I was like, okay, I guess we just go. And I did. I belly flopped again. And frankly, she told me it was a stupid idea. I was wasting a lot of money trying to do that many sizes. And I told her she could eat it. And then I made from size 0 to 26, and it's going just fine. So that is Bissy in a large nutshell.
Wow. Oh my God. I love that story. I also love that you decided to be inclusive from the get-go, because there's established brands that still have not figured it out.
Yeah. I've seen,
and you figured it out on your first time.
Yeah. I knew that I needed to use this. Well, I knew that I was using my modeling for this. I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I was preaching. I knew what I believed in. So it only made sense that something that I was going to create from the ground up was going to be rooted in the right things from the start. Like I just didn't want, I just wanted there to be no question what my intentions were. And the point of the whole brand, like this is not a make money quick situation. There's a reason people use size 2 sample sizes. It is cheap, significantly cheaper. And to do 3+ different sample sizes and then grading them all separately to fit the different body shapes, because your weight falls differently over certain sizes. Like this is a passion project. This is because I care. Yeah. If it was a get rich quick situation, none of that would have made sense. To me, it's just like, of course it was all sizes at the start. And of course now we've changed it to include even more. Like that was the first line that I put out. It was 0 to 26. And now we cover more than that, It was just continuously figuring out how to be able to afford to do more, to include more.
And this was how many years ago?
3-ish. We actually officially launched the brand like 2.5 ago.
Wow.
So yeah, like 3.5 years ago.
Wow. So then I remember being in Miami next to you. I'm pretty sure your mom was there too. And we were at the Top 16 runway show. Yes. And I think it was your mom scream, "That's Bissy," because one of the girls walked down and Bissy.
She was losing her mind.
And I'm so glad that's your mom. I was like, she looks really young, but I'm assuming that's your mom. But both of you, like, I can't imagine what that moment was like, knowing that your design is now on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit runway and you guys had just launched. What was that like?
That was so sick. They have been so good to me. First of all, I mean, the fact that Bissy has been featured every year since I was featured in the magazine is nuts. Like they have just done, I mean, I believe in the suits I make. They're bomb. They look great on people. The quality is nuts. I will stand by that, but they have been that's such a kind thing to choose to include me every year. They don't have to do that. So that's awesome. But getting to see it in the magazine, getting to watch it on the magazine is sick, but the runway just feels different. You know what I mean? Like, because mom has been like, you can tell by how I've talked about her already. Like she's been the cheerleader. Like she's my heart and soul and breath. Like, and so she's with me and just like beaming proud. She's proud when I make banana bread, so but she was just like, oh my God, so to feel her next to me, getting to see like because when you're chasing dreams, and thank God she's been a support. I've had supportive parents. They've been wonderful. And I'm so thankful for that. But like, it's risky, right? Like you know that there's a point through chasing all these things. You might have to go home and say, hi, can I live on your couch for a little bit? Like, this is not working. And they are aware of that too. So they're locked in, right? And to get to feel her next to me, like watching my suit up there, like it's electric. It's so fun. It's so fun.
I have chills.
That's the answer. A blast.
I have chills. Like that's why am I going to cry? Like that is so awesome. Like I just can only imagine what kind of momentum and like affirmation that was for you, knowing that you're on the right track, that everything in your life has led up to what this passion project is. Like you said, it's not a get rich quick by any means, but you've also figured it out because you did not go to school for this. Sounds like you didn't have a business mentor. You're figuring it out.
Yeah, I have. It's been so interesting to watch like the behind the scenes of this, because this is very, very foreign to me. I don't know entrepreneurship. Now I feel I do, but at the time I didn't. And so when I started all of this, I did actually have a business mentor, sort of. It was like the major pieces when I was like, I have no clue where to go. They could kind of point me, and they were wonderful, but they were managing me or helping me manage like I had a multi-million-dollar loan. I mean, or grant or something. And that was not true. It was literally like I would get a modeling check-in, I would sign it over, and it would go into spandex. I mean, it was like, yeah. And so I realized quick I'm a big planner, and it stresses me out to not have it very planned out. And I did that for this first line drop. This is a big one that is not like fun to talk about, but it is important if somebody's going to do stuff like this to know the failures. So I plan all this stuff out, and there was kind of got swindled isn't fair, but it was not an honest conversation that was had, and some changes that were made in production. And so it took my math that I knew I was squeaking by with, and I mean like $20,000 off. I mean, messed up. And that was a mix of me not knowing where to put my foot down, me not understanding certain things when multiplied by the minimum order were expensive. And it was just little ignorant, it was dumb stuff. And I got myself in some trouble. And so you take out a mortgage on your house and you figure it out. And so that's what I did. And point is, I did have a mentor. It wasn't necessarily the right answers. And so this whole process has been working backwards from kind of a really big business plan and slowly going, what can I take away? What can I manage? And my God, Cassidy, she's the president of Bissy right now. She's our COO, and she is my business partner. And she is like, I throw the creative shit at the wall, and she goes, okay, this part can stick, like she helps me do the logistics. And so she's been a really like huge key part in going, how can we rework? Kind of like what I did with when I got married. I want to keep these parts. I don't want to keep these. And nobody says that there are really rules that make you keep the whole big white wedding. You don't have to. You can just go elope. No, you don't have to do the big thing. Like, and that's what I was learning with this, was it was a big plan. And so I was told this is the only way you can do it, or you're an Etsy shop. No shade Etsy shops. I order off Etsy all the time, but I mean, like, that's not what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so Cassidy and I literally had to kind of pro-con list, keep, give away everything. And it's worked us to this really cool, innovative place where, like, what did they say? Like, don't waste a good tragedy, or don't waste a good, whatever that is. Like, COVID has been another one, but that first go was a tragedy. I mean, that was not okay. We made it look okay. We tried to keep the brand cool, but like, you figure out how to rework it. And so that plus COVID has gotten us to a really cool part where, like, we've reworked everything. We've reworked the structure of our finances. We don't have anything in stock anymore, because the whole point of the company, I'm on a whole tangent. We had an intention from the start to be mindful, sustainable, as eco-friendly as fashion can be, right? And
Yeah.
and we're working toward the more perfect version of that all the time. And so we have chosen to like go completely made to order. And so now this next line that we're putting out, we are completely foregoing in stock. We've, thank God, found this incredible seamstress. Her name's Tia, and she's nuts. She's so good. And she has figured out a way to literally take, this is how we're including, I'm wrapping up for a real purpose, I mean, but to fit all of these sizes, how do you afford to fit literally everybody that comes to you? How do you make sure that everybody that needs padding has it, or adjustable straps has it, or needs an apple shaped fit has it? How do you do that and not go bankrupt? And the answer is you find a stellar seamstress like our head of production is, and you quite literally make every suit to the body that orders it. And so everything that we're doing is made to order, so we don't keep it in stock anymore and waste money on wasted suits. And you get a better fitting swimsuit because point is we've reworked the whole process working backwards to create a made to order system. Yeah,
that's genius.
It's to you in like a week and a half. It's nuts.
I was going to say, so then how long does that take? 6 months? You're like a week and a half. What?
if you're within our, like the original sizes that we offered, that means that we have everything graded. So it's super quick, max 2.5 weeks if you have like a ton of edits. But for the most part, you can get it in like a week and a half. And then like our really custom stuff that can take a couple months. If it's like my pageant girls who want me to draw them up a brand new thing and grade it and everything from the startup. But for the ones that are like offered on the site, yeah.
What you're doing is revolutionary. Never heard of that before. And I think that it's cool that you weren't stuck in knowing we have to do it this way, that you were open to pivoting.
Yeah. Well, and that's a hard thing to rally from when you do it the way that you're told you have to and it fails the first time through.
Yep.
You have to be innovative. Like
I'm sure that was a tough lesson to learn, but it led you to where you are now.
Oh my God, it sucked. I remember so that was so awful. That was such a stressful time. I didn't know how I was ever going to like financially recover. I didn't know if the brand was going to make it. I was like, I had no clue.
And having experienced something like that so young, so early on into the business and not giving up and going again is something that I admire the hell out of you for. That brings me even to my next point that you did another open casting call for Sports Illustrated. Like the persistence, I feel like that's just who you are. Is like, you can tell me no, it can break down a few times, but like when you believe in yourself and when you're on the right path, you're like, I know I can do it. So I'm just going to keep showing up.
And that's how you win, right? Like that's what they say about acting and modeling. Like if you just keep showing up, eventually your time's going to come. That's what's so cool about seeing these like older models, like in their 60s, 70s, these May Musks. Like she was modeling she's successful in a gajillion ways, but like she was modeling when she was young. And now we know her face, it's just cool. If you don't go away, cool. You just bang their door down.
Just keep showing up. Eventually they're going to let you in. Exactly. And you're now on the board of the model coaches. So do you coach anyone that comes to you from all over the country and just give them advice on how to get into the modeling industry, or how does that work?
It's an interesting thing to navigate because there's like a negative stigma toward paying people to get you into an agency, right? Because that's correct. There shouldn't be a negative stigma around that. You shouldn't have to pay your way into being represented. That means they're probably not actually legitimate. So we were having to really work through how do we make sure people understand the concept, first of all. And it's like with acting. Have you done any acting work?
A little bit.
It's an understood in the acting industry. You're not going to show up on set and know you're not going to know how to submit a self-tape properly if you aren't told the logistics, right?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, and those things it doesn't mean you can't book a job. It doesn't mean that you can't get signed for acting if you haven't gone to training, but Lord, does it help. And so it was just an interesting concept to me, and specifically to Trudy, who started the Model Coaches. Like, why do we expect these 15-year-old girls to be thrown onto set and know, first of all, how to model well, be effective, keep these clients? How in the world are we expecting them to know what contracts to sign and how to be safe? How do we know how to accurately feel out a test shoot that isn't safe for them? Like, who in the world is telling them these things? Nobody. They're just thinking, oh, you just throw them on set and they figure it out if they're tall and skinny and are pretty. That was the antiquated mindset, right? And so it's like, there are so many ways we can prep these people better. There's so many ways I wish I had been prepped. So many things I could have been saved from. So many clients I could have kept. So many years of crying over my taxes because being a contract worker is hard. All of those things. You're a business. And for whatever reason, we're like, hey, you're a teenager and you're pretty. You got
Figure it out.
You got it. Good luck, and so that's what this is we something I didn't have for myself that I wish that I had. So how it works is in differentiating those things, there's an application process. People are sent over. I am assigned models who are interested. Sometimes that means that they are young and just feeling it out and they want to see, they've been told since they were tiny that they should be a model and they want to see how to do it. And so it's literally breaking down what's an editorial model, what's a commercial model, what does it look like what are the steps, what would you do, what's a key light and a fill light, how do we communicate with the photographer to make sure that you have a productive, effective time on set with them, how do you keep clients, how do you blah, 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 all these things. And so it can be like the basics of literally this is what a mother agent focuses on, or it can be a more established model who's like, I need help figuring out how to get signed in these specific markets. And this is my dream client. How do we work backwards from that? The way that I work backwards on my dream lists. And I help them make like an actual step-by-step path to getting those big dreams. So it's across the board. It's just assisting them in their journey, helping them have a more productive and like fulfilling career.
How cool. It's so needed. And it's something that is such a new concept, knowing that the industry's been around for so long. Like it's new. It's
nuts to me that it's just happening because it's so parallel with the acting thing. Like, why in the world is this just not happening? But I'm thankful to be a part of it right now when it's kicking off. And
totally.
I know that there were like modeling schools, but I was always told to not do them. Yeah. And so we've tried really hard to rework this to make sure it's like exactly what it should be. Yeah.
Well, it sounds pretty incredible. And it sounds like you're going to help the next generation of models actually know what they're doing and how to be protected throughout their careers, because we sure as hell didn't have any of that protection going into this industry.
That's so nuts to me. The more I think about it, it's just wild.
I know. It really is. And you had brought up too your recent wedding and how you worked backwards from that and you picked the parts that you wanted and left the rest of it. And I think it's so awesome because so many preconceived notions about what you're supposed to do when you get engaged and married and what the wedding's supposed to look like and who's involved and who's not involved. And being in the midst of that right now, eloping sounds pretty phenomenal, but I want to know what was going through your mind and how you guys made that decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. American weddings are wild. Like, we're expected to have a shower, maybe at both people's hometowns. You're supposed to like sit and do that whole thing. You're supposed to have a lingerie shower. You're supposed to have a bachelorette party and a bachelor party. You're supposed to have this rehearsal dinner. You're supposed to have, there are 5 gajillion things that you're supposed to do. And I'm like, I don't need all of that attention surrounding this. Like, for me, it takes away, like, it's fun and that's cool, but like, I can only imagine that would get really daunting. And for me, I wanted to just make sure it was really, really about us. Like, I wanted to get to have, and we created this for ourselves. We wanted to get to go together and we rented a little condo in Telluride. We showed up, we carried our dresses in, and my dress and his stuff in, and we got to like sit around the morning before we went to the courthouse and signed our papers. And then we had breakfast, and then we went and got to lay on the bed and write our vows. And then we stared at each other and cried. And then we went to go say our vows by the river. And like, it was just all about us. And we got to reflect the entire time without distraction about like how right and fun and exciting this is, and how like we don't have to do all the stuff that is stressful and like literally threatens friendships, and like bridesmaids getting annoyed that they don't like the fit, and moms wanting this hors d'oeuvres served and the bullshit. Like I was just like, we're not going to do it. And the parts that we wanted to keep were what I just described with our elopement. And then we want to have all of our friends show up. We're going to have a keg and some wine and a tent, and everybody's going to party their asses off. And those are the parts that we care about.
Love.
And that's all we're going to do. And so the mindset was like, yet again, realizing tradition is nice, but you don't have to keep the parts that are not healthy for you. And we just chose the parts that weren't. So we wanted it to be not stressful and about us. And that's what we did.
I love that. How long ago was that?
As my mother said yesterday, hey, it's 2 weeks and 2 days. Congratulations. So it's been 2 weeks and 3 days.
I'm fully obsessed with your mom. She sounds like the best person.
And her little accent, she just gets going. And every time you come over, she's like, well, it's cocktail time. And you're like, yep. And so you go back into the full bar. They have an entire room that is the full bar. And she'll just make you a cocktail. And we'll just go sit in the gazebo and have us some cocktails and chat, you know? She's just hilarious. I love her so much.
Even your accent is so spot on. It's so spot on.
I was very curious about this. The other day I found a video and it's me cheering as like a 6-year-old. I've been like a cheerleader outfit. And the town I'm from is Snyder, Snyder. And you hear me and I'm like, give me an S, give me an N, give me a Y, DER. And I just like looked at it, I was like, oh my God. Like, I just thought I didn't really have it that much. I mean, it pops out, but I was like, when did that go away? Oh my God, give me an S.
I want to see that video. One. You're just a Southern girl at heart.
And that's exactly how my mama sounds. She's just cocktails and Snyder. She's so funny.
Is that where you are back at now? Is your hometown?
No, I am about 3 hours north in Tonkawa,
I love it.
Oklahoma.
I love it.
Yes, you do. God bless.
God bless. I've noticed that so many women from the South say God bless. Is there like a rhyme or reason to when you say it? Because I've heard a lot of people be like, God bless her heart. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, you know that bless your heart is not a compliment.
It's not a compliment at all, but
no.
It sounds so nice.
If she's like, how do I say this and not get in trouble? If she just does not know what shoes to wear with her dress to church, she might look over and say, oh, bless her heart. She doesn't know. Like, bless her heart.
Bless her heart.
It's not a compliment. It's a very polite, backhanded insult. Yeah. Yeah. But like, oh, God bless. Like that could work for anything you're actually excited about. Like, oh, God bless. Like you called me today. Like that could be God. Actually happy. And then it's only gotten worse because I'm married to a man named Dusty, and he has all of the sayings. Like he is just my Oklahoma sweetheart. He's so funny. He has all kinds of things that he pulls out, and
there's like an entirely different language that happens in the South. Like some of your analogies, right. I'm like, where did that come from? All y'all
happens a lot. All y'all stuff.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the interview, you're just one of my favorite people. I think you're so fascinating, and I loved learning more about your story and why you are the way you are. And I have no doubt you're just going to continue breaking the mold, breaking barriers. You're a badass.
I so appreciate you. And I want to like turn it around and interview you sometime. I know I'm not doing this whole thing, but I feel I've just been talking. Like I'm excited to hear all of your stuff, but we will have a catch up soon.
When we drink a bottle of wine and spill our hearts out to each other.
Exactly.
Well, I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love you back, and I will see you soon, hopefully.
As promised, it's time for a giveaway. Bissy Swim has been seen in the pages of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit and is a sexy, fun, and sustainable brand catering to all women. They're size inclusive, ranging from a size 0 to 26, and one of you lucky listeners are about to win one of your own. All the details on how to enter are on our Insta, but be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast for a chance to be in the running. We hope you love this episode as much as we do. We'll see you next week.